Have you ever stopped to think about where company rules actually come from? One day they just show up in your inbox, but there's a whole hidden journey behind them. So today, we're going to follow a single policy, from just a spark of an idea all the way to becoming a rule that shapes how an entire company works. Let's dive in.
I mean, seriously, do they just appear out of thin air? Is there some secret committee somewhere dreaming them up? It can definitely feel that way, right? But the truth is, there's a surprisingly structured and logical process behind every single one, from how you file your expenses to what's okay to post online.
The best way to think about all of a company's policies is to see them as its operating system, the OS, right? It's all that code running in the background, making sure everything runs smoothly and predictably. And just like the OS on your phone or computer, it needs a master plan. And that master plan has a name. It's called Policy Development Governance. Now, don't let the formal name throw you. All this means is that there's a rule book for making the rules. That's the key. It's the framework that makes sure every new policy is created in a way that's consistent, fair, and actually makes sense. So, with that big picture framework in place, how does a brand new policy actually get made? Well, it all starts with crafting the initial blueprint.
So it begins just like you'd think. Someone writes a first draft. But honestly, the most important part is what comes next. That's stakeholder review. This is where the draft gets put to the test. You've got teams from legal, HR, IT, finance. They all get a chance to look at it and make sure the new rule is practical, that it's fair, and that it isn't going to cause some other problem down the line. It's a real team effort.
And let's be real, a policy is only good if people can actually understand it. The best ones start from a clear template, they're written in plain English, not a bunch of legal jargon, and they're accessible to absolutely everyone. Because at the end of the day, a rule that nobody can understand isn't really a rule at all, is it? Okay, so the policy has been written, it's been approved by everyone. Now for maybe the most critical part, bringing it to life for the whole organization. This is the rollout.
A really successful launch boils down to these two things. On one side, you've got communication. That's just making sure people know the new rule is out there. But the real work is on the other side, training and attestation. This is about making sure people truly get it. And attestation, that's just the fancy word for that formal step where everyone has to click a button or sign off saying, yep, I've read it, I understand it, and I'll follow it.
We've been talking about the process, which can feel a little abstract. So what kinds of actual rules are we talking about here? Let's run through a few quick examples you've probably seen yourself. First up, a huge one these days, remote work policies. These are the rules that define working from home, everything from core hours to what equipment you can use to security protocols. A perfect example of a policy that, for many companies, had to be built and rolled out super fast. And then there are social media policies. These basically set the guardrails for what employees can and can't say about the company online. It's all about protecting both the person posting and the company's reputation. Oh, and a total classic, travel and expense policies. This is the rule book for what you can and can't expense when you're traveling for work. Think flights, hotels, meals. This is a policy that really impacts an employee's day-to-day. But here's the thing. Once a policy is out in the wild, the job isn't done, not even close. A whole new challenge starts. How do you keep this growing library of rules neat, tidy, and up-to-date? And for that, there are two tools that are absolutely essential. First, you've got version control. Just think of it like track changes for your company's rules. It makes sure that some old, outdated version of the remote work policy isn't still floating around causing confusion. And second, a centralized policy library. This is the single source of truth, the one official place anyone can go to find the latest version of any rule. No more guessing. This is such a good question. Because life is messy, right? And no rule book, no matter how well written, can possibly account for every single unique situation that's going to pop up. And that's exactly why policy exception management exists. Now, this is not a free pass to just ignore the rules whenever you feel like it. Instead, it's a formal, documented process for when there's a legitimate business reason for a one-time exception. It allows for flexibility, but in a controlled way that doesn't create chaos. So, we've created the policy, we've launched it, we're managing it day to day. But things change. The world changes. Business changes. So the final and maybe most important part of the journey is asking, is this rule still actually working? Is it still relevant? This whole journey from start to finish and beyond is called policy lifecycle management. And it's all built on this one core idea. Policies are not meant to be carved in stone. They are living, breathing documents that are designed to evolve over time. So here it is, the whole life cycle in one shot. We've talked about creation, launch, and management. But look at those last two steps. They are so crucial. There's a built-in feedback loop, a review and audit, where the company checks to see if the policy is still effective. And based on that review, it's either updated to fit new realities or it's retired completely. So what actually triggers one of these updates? Well, it could be a lot of things. It might be a regular checkup, just a scheduled review. Or maybe a new law gets passed that forces a change. Sometimes you have to update one policy so it doesn't conflict with another new one. And more, it's actually based on data, on metrics that show whether the policy is really achieving what it's set out to do. So it turns out company rules aren't just bureaucratic red tape. They are the living, breathing operating system of an organization. And just like the OS on your computer, they need regular updates to keep everything running at its best. Which kind of leaves you with a question to think about. Is the OS at your organization running the latest version? Thanks for tuning in.